Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong Chua. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, I have another amazing guest. This is somebody I've actually seen live on stage a few times and also virtually a few times. And he's just so passionate in what he does. And that is when it comes to partnering, investing, and buying businesses. And I'm so excited to have him here because he's just so good at it. Now, not only that, he has 15 plus years of being a lawyer. He was 10 of those years, he was a partner, but then he got bit by the entrepreneurial bug, passion in business, and then went on to pursue his MBA at that time. He's now the founder of UK Business Capital Partners and Allied Global Engineering Limited, where they focus on acquiring engineering, manufacturing, and SME companies. Now, why is he so good? It's because he's so good at structuring deals so that there's the right protection, and he's so good at negotiating those deals as well. He also has a podcast called Buying and Selling Businesses Show. So please welcome serial entrepreneur, global investor, and business leader, Mr. Philip Jepson.
Hi, it's great to be here, and I will struggle to live up to that introduction.
I'm sure you'll do fine.
I'll give it a go.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for being here. For people who don't recognize or know very much about you, if you could please give us that Coles Notes version of your past and how you became who you are today.
Yeah, it's quite a long past. Hang on a minute. I don't know if you can hear that. I've got helicopters flying over. So it's quite warm in the UK at the moment. So we've got windows open, which is quite unusual for us. Where to begin? Well, as you said, I started life as a lawyer. I was pretty good at it. I spent 15 years being a lawyer. Went to the top of the firms that I was in. I was a partner in 4 different law firms in all, actually, but got bored. Wasn't enjoying what I was doing. Wanted a new challenge, and I'd always been interested in having a business, having my own business. So, 2004, I did what a lot of people would do in that situation, which is start my own business. And I had no idea what I was going to do, actually. When I quit as a lawyer, I had no idea what I was going to do. And it was a case of trying to find something that I could build on some of the stuff I'd done before, but was also a new venture. And I ended up starting a recruiting business, a headhunting business for lawyers. So set the business up and spent the next 15 years or so doing that, growing the business, and still working within the legal sector. And at the same time as doing that, that's when I did my MBA. So got that. And that was fascinating, meeting people from all around the world, for one, which I'd never really done before. And also seeing a lot of different industries, which again, I hadn't really experienced before. But at the time, I didn't really know. I knew it was interesting, but I didn't really know what to do with it. And I just carried on with the business that I'd started. So that was all, well and good, sailed on. Get towards like 2019. And again, I've got itchy feet. And I'm feeling that I want something more, something different, but had no idea, again, what that was. And then I got approached one day by someone who was running a course on how to buy businesses. And this was something, obviously, I knew that people did buy businesses. You read about it in the newspapers, all that kind of stuff, all these takeovers and everything. But what I hadn't realized is that people like me could do it. I always thought you needed huge pots of money to put in to make deals work, and that you wouldn't be able to borrow the money to make it happen. And I just had no idea, basically. So this guy basically opened my eyes to new possibilities. And the fact that, firstly, it's perfectly feasible to buy businesses. And secondly, that you don't really need much or any of your own money in order to do it. So I just knew when I saw this, I just knew that was what I wanted to do. That was going to be the next phase of my life. So by then I'd met JT Fox, my business coach. JT's very big on no fear, no excuses, on making decisions, on getting on with it. And all of that sort of mindset just had me ready to go. So I dived into it, and in 2020, when the pandemic was at its height, I sold my shares in the recruitment business and went all in on the business buying journey. And it's been a heck of a ride so far. We've done 3 deals since then, and in all acquired 8 companies through those deals, and made lots of mistakes, learned a heck of a lot, and we're going on building a group, a portfolio of businesses. Yeah, so it's been a pretty exciting time.
That is awesome. When it comes to being a lawyer, so what you're telling me is that all those things in the movies and the TV shows, that's not true. It's boring. So boring, in fact, that you had to quit the entire industry.
I think, well, yeah, if you spent all your time with lawyers, you'd probably quit as well. I think it's like any job. One thing I've learned over the years, I don't think there's any such thing as an exciting job. Mm. And I mean, all right, there are maybe 1 or 2 jobs that are just boring, full stop. But to be honest, it's more about what you make of it. You know, you could be the man who sweeps the streets, and yet you could actually find that a really interesting and stimulating job if your mindset is right, and if that's what you're happy doing. And I think with the lawyer thing, well, what happens is, as time goes by, you tend to specialize more and more tightly in your subject area. So you go narrower and deeper and narrower and deeper, but you get to a certain point where there's no more depth. And what you're doing is just repeating the same stuff over and over. All right, the cases might be different, the clients might be different, but essentially you're just doing the same thing over and over again. So after a while, it loses its challenge.
Mm-hmm. Now, for a lot of people out there, when they get to that height of success that you've gotten as a lawyer, they're just going to coast. They're like, you know what? I'm not going to do anything different. This is great. But you want to find the next challenge. Now, some people go, I want to find that next challenge, but they are too afraid to quit completely. How did you get that mindset? Or how was that process like for you to go, you know what? I'm just going to leave this. You didn't know what you were going to do, but you're going to find something.
Yeah. And I had a wife, 2 kids, and a mortgage as well. I think I had a bit of a push. And I think often when you come across people who are standing on the edge of a big decision like that, often circumstances get involved, and they are the things which either make you do it or make you not do it. And I had a bit of a push in that the firm that I was working with at the time was not a very nice culture. And some of the people I was working with were not very pleasant. And one day someone walked into my office, one of my fellow partners, and said some stuff to me about basically how he thought he could do my job better than I can do it. Was the essence of it. And that was that little thing was the thing which just pushed me over the edge. And it's like, right, okay, you think you can do the job better than me? Have it. I'm out of here. and that was it. It was just something to tip you over the edge. And I think that's what often happens in those sorts of situations. It's like life either gives you a sign that it's the right thing to do or that it's not the right thing to do. And you just go, I mean, if the universe says do it, then do it.
Was there a period of time where you sat there and goes, oh, what did I do? Did you tell your wife, and your wife's like, oh, what did you do?
Oh yeah, hi darling, what did you do today? Oh, I quit my job.
Nothing.
No, to be honest, no. I didn't, because it was the right thing. I always thought it was the right thing. And the same 2020, when I moved on from the business that I'd started, again, it just felt like the time was right to do it. And it was the right thing to do. And I haven't looked back on that either. Mm-hmm. So I do. I mean, yeah, sometimes you make decisions and you do have regrets, but you can't go back. I mean, there's a couple of things. One is you can't go back. And the other is you can never know what would have happened if you'd made a different decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because once you've walked through the door, that's it. So there's no point in dwelling on it. You've just got to move on. You've done what you've done. You've decided what you decided. Get a grip. Get a grip and move forward.
Right.
Because otherwise, well, what do? You sit there miserable because you didn't do something else. But the thing is that your biggest mistakes are the things which teach you the biggest lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I made a big mistake in 2021, which was with the second acquisition that we made. I mean, but I can look back now. We shouldn't have done that deal. On the terms that were on the table, the way that the thing went, we should have walked away. We didn't. We did the deal, and it's caused me a whole load of grief. But I've learned so much that I would never have learned, and it sets you up then for the next thing. So the next time you're not going to make those mistakes. You know, how do you learn? You learn from, well, best of all, you learn from other people's mistakes, but often you've got to learn from your own mistakes. And so it's like, again, it's the JT sort of mindset of no regrets. You've done what you've done. You've got to move forward and learn. And it's all about, it's about that. I mean, the people that I know, admire and respect all have the same mindset, mm-hmm. which is every day's new, every day's different, every day there's something to learn. We're all on a journey and we want to find out what comes next. You know, I spent last weekend in Chicago with a multi-billionaire, almost literally sat at his feet, and he's in his 60s, in his mid 60s, mm-hmm. and he has billions of dollars. You know, more money than most of us could dream about, apart from JT, who can obviously dream about very big things. And he talked about his journey. You know, he talked about what he was going to do next and how his life and his businesses were going to develop. And he's now doing the biggest deals of his life. And it's not because he needs to. It's that mindset of every day a step forward, every day something new to learn. And that's what I believe in, and that's what I admire in others.
Now, when you transitioned over to entrepreneurship, becoming a business owner, what about business excites you then?
That is so hard to answer, because I could say everything. I think, yeah, that's really tough to answer, because I suppose one is it's a challenge. Every day it's a challenge. You know, every day there's something to mm-hmm. deal with, some problem to solve. So I guess as a left brainer, which, yeah, I get constantly reminded of, as a left brainer, I should probably say that it's about solving problems and challenges. Mm-hmm. And if I was a right brainer, I'd say it's about the creative art and being creative to grow the business. And the truth is, it's a bit of both. Mm-hmm. It is. There's lots of problem solving. There's lots of challenges, and there are lots of opportunities to do things differently. Mm-hmm. And I suppose the other side of it is people, because I like, I mean, it's nice sometimes to have a bit of quiet time on your own, but I like people I like dealing with people. I like helping people, developing people, and business at its heart is also all about people, whether you're big, small, whatever. I mean, one of our big customers in the business we just acquired is JCB, which is, a multinational company. It's probably the largest company that I've ever dealt with. But once you get into it, you're dealing with people.
Mm-hmm.
Even at a company like that, when you pick up the phone or when you email, you're contacting a human being.
Yeah.
And you're trying to do stuff which is going to help them and help you. And you're trying to work together. And so it's that side of it as well, the people side. But and I suppose then it's like the whole lot fused together. It's all of those things in one, which for me is fascinating. Plus, it's the other big thing for me actually is being in control of my own destiny.
Right.
Because I like the freedom. All right, you're always working for somebody. This notion of being totally free is nonsense, because even if you work for yourself, you've got customers.
Right.
So you've still got to deliver stuff on time, to spec, on budget, and all that. But as a business owner, you do have quite a lot of scope and latitude about how you do things. So that's feeling that sense of control and ownership is a big thing as well for me. So yeah.
So there's a lot of different businesses out there. And when people go, I want to go buy businesses, it might be, let's go buy a franchise, let's go buy something that's well known already. But you've chosen the path of engineering, manufacturing as SMEs. Yeah. Is there a specific reason why that's your target?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the business size, I like small businesses. And actually in places like the UK, the US, Europe as well, small businesses are the heart of the economy. They make up the vast majority of enterprises, and they add a huge amount of value to the economy. And there's a huge variety, shapes and sizes of them, but small businesses are really interesting little creatures. Mm-hmm. And I don't like big faceless organizations. I could never work for a big faceless organization. I don't particularly want to own one. So yeah, it's a bit of the spirit of entrepreneurship that you get in small businesses I really like. Plus, as a buyer, particularly someone like me coming into it to begin with, the reality is you can't just go out and buy a big business. You can't do it. You don't have the credibility, you don't have the track record. So you've got to start small. So what a lot of people who do what I'm doing tend to do is they'll start with a small business. Some people stay that sort of level. Some people then go on and try and buy bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's a great place to start. The engineering and manufacturing thing, that just happened really. When I started, I wasn't looking for a particular industry or particular sector. The test was, do I look at this business and think, oh, that's interesting? And as I saw more and more businesses, it was the businesses which make things, which make physical things, which were the ones that got me interested. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because of my background, firstly as a lawyer, services business, then as a recruiter, services business. I'd never worked in a business that actually made physical products. So then when you go out and see what these businesses are capable of doing, I just found it fantastic. I just really loved the stuff that they could make. Mm-hmm. And so I just got more and more interested in those kinds of businesses. And then once you've bought one, it makes sense to then get something similar. So again, built on the JT Fox principles, what we're doing is building an ecosystem. And it's, I mean, it's great. It's hard actually, because manufacturing engineering is very competitive, and getting these businesses to succeed and grow and make money is quite a challenge. And it's partly because of the competition from overseas, particularly Far East, China, where a lot of the more routine type manufacturing, moved out there. Right now is the best time that there has been for a while, because of the problems with global shipping, and still some of the lockdowns that are going on in China. It's not as easy as it was for people to import from there, so they're looking for more local suppliers. So there is a bit of an opportunity right now, but it's certainly not an easy market, that's for sure.
No, as you were saying before, you had to, like, when you first started, you're looking at the smaller companies. Now, again, smaller companies don't have the cachet, they don't have the brand, they don't have the large market or whatnot, but you still need to go through your due diligence to make sure, okay, this is the company I'm going to buy, and it's going to have a good back end to it or a good potential to it. What do you specifically look for in small companies that you go, okay, these are the targets, or these are the items or elements that allows me to put my money into it?
Firstly, we're focusing on retirement sales. So we're looking for businesses that are well established in the market, that are profitable. So they've got customers, decent customers, they've got established revenue streams, and they have some people inside the business that can run it day to day. It may be only one person, but in a smaller business, that may be all you need. But we're not looking to buy something that we've then got to micromanage. We want to buy it, have it self-manage, and then we can put in the strategy. That's the key. The key elements are that it's making money, that it has an infrastructure that looks like it can support itself, and say it's got established customers. I mean, ideally you want something that's growing, but a lot of them are not, because what happens is the owners, after a while, it gets to a size where it's giving them the lifestyle they want, and then when it hits that level, they just ease off and let it coast along. So the other key thing we're looking at is potential. It's, yes, this is what it's doing now, but if we get in there, what's the potential in that business? So the advantage of an established business over a startup is that you've already got customers, you've already got revenue, you've already got established market sectors, so you know that there is a business there. That's the advantage of doing it. The disadvantage is that you've got to get to grips with this creature which already exists and understand it, and you can't just build it from the ground up how you want. So, for example, culture is something you've got to think about. What's the culture in the business? And the last two acquisitions that we've done, they've been quite, I'd say, relatively sizable businesses. One 4 million turnover, one 2 million turnover. But when you get inside them, there's no real structures. They basically had bosses that shouted at people and told them what to do. So no real management structure. And the part of the due diligence is understanding that, so that you know what you're getting, because you can deal with most things as long as you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
So culture again, is quite an important thing, at least so you can understand what you're starting with. But that's really the essence of it. Is, is it a decent functioning economic unit right now? And then has it got potential to grow? Does it add to our ecosystem? Is now, because now we've got some businesses in there, it's thinking, okay, so is this another piece in our jigsaw? What does it add to the pot? Which is, it's quite interesting because there's quite a variety of businesses out there. So you've got lots of opportunities for directions of growth, whether it's geographic, whether it's speciality, whether it's type of customer, whatever. So it is, it's interesting.
No, when you acquire a business, one of the things that you need to do is jump in there and then start inflicting some changes and implementing different systems and whatnot. And as you said before, there's an existing group of people who's already there sometimes. They've already grown accustomed to certain cultures, to certain systems and all that kind of stuff. And then this new guy comes in and goes, no, you need to do this. No, you need to change this. How do you navigate through that type of potentially conflict, because they go, we don't want to do that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges, actually, because, and this is some of the mistakes that I've made have been around this, in trying to change too much too soon. And it's a really difficult balance to strike, because there's two things really. One's the attitudes of people, which is what you talked about, and the other is the law of unintended consequences. Because until you really, it may be a relatively small business, but they're all quite complex. And you change one thing, and then that will impact on other things across the business. So until you've got to the point where you really understand how it all works, any change you make is a risk because of the knock-on effects. And we swore before this most recent acquisition that this time we'd sit back, not do anything for 3 months, just soak it all in. But it's like you can't help yourself. You start
itching.
Yeah, that is so blatantly wrong that I'm just going to change it. And then you start getting the phone calls saying, this doesn't work anymore. What's happened? Why can't we do this anymore? And you suddenly think, oh no, because I've changed this over there, that's caused this problem over here. But yeah, I say on that, you've just got to, I think that's just experience. You just learn that stuff. With the people side, actually, often the people are quite relieved to see some changes, because with some of the things that go on in these businesses, the people who work there can see how stupid it is, because they're at the shop, they're the ones on the shop floor. They're the ones who are impacted by these stupid rules or the failure to provide basic equipment or whatever. So if you come in and say, oh, right, well, don't worry, we're going to change that, and now you can have this, they think, great, finally someone sees the problems. So you come across a little bit of, oh no, that's not how we do it around here, but not as much as that as you would think, actually, because as long as you're being sensible about what you want to change and what you want to put in, the important people, who are the guys at the sharp end, they can see it's a good idea. So that's okay. But yeah, I mean, change, the biggest thing, I think, the biggest challenge with change is getting people to understand that change is a constant. It's not like we're going to come in, we're going to make a few changes, and then that's it. Change is a process. It's ongoing. It never stops. And in fact, the pace of change is just increasing. So it's more getting people into that mindset about change that's the challenge, rather than getting them to accept that the first raft of things you do is a good idea. But yeah, again, it's part of the fun.
Is it often that the previous owner still wants to be involved in some capacity, or is that something that you're not usually susceptible to?
I'm open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
I think previous owners is in some ways actually handling that aspect of it is more difficult than just about anything else. And the reason is this: there's people think that you need to keep the previous owners around for a while to get the transition, transition to customers, transition to business and all this, make the staff feel comfortable. But if you think, right, so you think about your business. So you decide to sell your business and the new people arrive and they say, okay, well, we want you to stick around for 12 months while we transition it. And you go, okay, well, 12 months doesn't sound like too long and I'm getting paid, so that'll be okay. And then by the second week or the third week, they start to change stuff. And these are things which you have done in a particular way because you think that's the best way.
Mm-hmm.
These new people are coming in and undoing it all your hard work. It's all been taken down bit by bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you begin to feel resentful because it's embarrassing, because either you were right and it was the best way of doing it, and so what they're doing now is not as good, which frustrates you, or you were wrong and they found a better way of doing it, in which case you feel embarrassed because you feel like an idiot because you never realized that their way was the way you should have been doing it all along. So either way, you get tension between the new regime and the old regime. So my starting point now is that where an owner wants to retire, we should get them out the door as soon as possible. And that's not being ruthless. Mm-hmm. It's as much for their benefit as it is for ours, and it just clears the decks. Obviously, there's certain things they need to hand over, but subject to that, let them go, let them retire. If there's someone who wants to stay and be part of the new world, that's different. So, for example, in our most recent acquisition, there were 3 owners before. One of them, who was the youngest of the 3, has stayed. He's kept 25% of the shares in the business, and he's now our partner. And we're moving forward together to grow and develop the business. And that's brilliant because he gives us continuity. He's not tied to how it was all done in the past. And from the point of view of the customers, they recognize him. And he's got a lot to contribute, heck of a lot to contribute. So that is brilliant. There's another similar one we're talking at the moment, where again, if we do a deal, the current owner will probably keep 20 or 25%. And in that one, he wants to do product development. And he's not got time to do it at the moment because he's having to run the business day to day. So he doesn't have time to sit in his shed and come up with all these fantastic new products. So again, that could work really well for a completely different reason. So yeah, so I think if someone says, I'd like to stick around for a bit, that's okay, as long as they're going to be part of moving the business forward.
Right.
They're bought into that. But other than that, if they want to retire, let them go.
Right. Now, for somebody like yourself who's going in and buying businesses, during the last couple of years now, lots of businesses have not done well because of the global pandemic and whatnot. So how did you protect yourself from any downfall of this pandemic and potentially future ones?
well, future ones, there's not a lot we can do other than hope that the drugs are good. But the first deal we did was May 2020, which in the UK was kind of the height of the first wave. So largely people were working at home, although with engineering, obviously you can't work at home. So people had to go into the workshop. The way that we protected ourselves at that stage, because it was a bit early, we didn't really know how it was all going to go. It was through the deal structure. So we just did a deal structure that basically said, look, if the revenue hits this level, we'll pay you that much. If the revenue is higher, we'll pay you more. So we agreed the price for the business, but then there was variables depending on what happened with the levels of business. And that essentially that worked out okay. By the time we did the second deal in 2021, we knew how the world was going. Although actually raw materials prices proved to be a bit of an issue with that deal and the profitability of the business. But essentially the engineering and manufacturing market was already recovering quite strongly by then. So that was okay. That sector in the UK has actually done well. I mean, it sounds a bit bizarre, but it's actually done well out of COVID, because the fact that the Far East was closed down meant that the domestic demand for what these businesses do has gone up significantly. So most businesses had a really good year in 2021 and probably will have an even better year in 2022. Although, of course, now we've got a whole other raft of problems with inflation and fuel prices, strikes, and now the war in Ukraine. So, which nobody saw coming.
Right. So when it comes to all these different external effects that you have to go in and potentially pivot and change systems to adjust for things, do you give it, how much time do you give something for the business to adjust to before you go, okay, let's scrap that, we're going to need to try something else?
I think the answer to that depends on how much cash you've got in the business. Cash is the lifeblood of a company. So the bigger the cash reserve that you have, the more time you have to be able to review and make decisions. It's one of the challenges with small businesses sometimes is you don't always have the cash reserves you would like to have. So hence you have to react more quickly. But in that sort of context, cash equals time. And that, that's the benefit of having cash. It buys you time, and it also allows you the luxury of making a mistake or two along the way, because in business, mistakes cost you money. That's the feedback you get. So yeah, it really does depend on your reserves. But I mean, the quicker you can respond and react, then obviously the better position you'll be in. But you don't always know. It's always easy with hindsight, but at the time when you're in the middle of the situation, you don't always know what's going to happen. So the best advice I was ever given on this, or ever read on this, was where you're in that sort of situation where things are changing around you and it's uncertain, then what you do is you make a small move in the direction that you think is the right direction. See what happens, and then reevaluate. And if it looks like that's gone okay, then you can make a bit of a bigger move in the same direction and then see what happens. So rather than just committing 100%, right, we're going that way, because then obviously if you're wrong, you've got a problem.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Going back to the very beginning, you mentioned that one of the things that you didn't realize was that buying businesses may not require a whole lump sum of money or capital. Why is that, and how do you structure your deals so that you could potentially be in with no money in?
Yeah. Okay. First thing to say is that obviously the better the business is, i.e. the more profitable it is, and the bigger it is, then the more it'll cost. That's just common sense. So one thing you can do as a new buyer is find a business that is not massively profitable right now, but you can see the potential in it, because that will reduce the price. So that's sort of step number one, is having a look for things like that. It's like taking fruit that's not quite ripe yet. And then on top of that, it's a case of being able to borrow money. Plus, there's two elements to it. There's being able to borrow money, and then there's persuading the people who are selling the business to take part of the price over a period of time. So in the US, they call it seller finance. It's a combination of those two things, really. In terms of borrowing money, then anyone who's going to lend you money wants to have it secured, just like when you buy a house. So the businesses that are easier to look at are the ones that have got assets. So actually product businesses are easier than services businesses from that point of view, because they've got plant and machinery, which is something solid that you can use for collateral. The other thing you can use for collateral is the accounts receivable, the money that's owed by customers to the business. So the deals that we've done so far have been funded by a combination of those things, really, which is one, seller finance, two, the accounts receivable, using that as collateral, and then third, using the physical assets and machinery as collateral. Debt is cheaper than equity in the long run anyway, but equity, if you can find equity investors, equity is cheaper in the short run from a cash flow point of view. So it's like, pick your poison. Do you want to take the pain up front, having to pay interest, or do you want to take the pain at the end when you have to give a percentage of the business away? We're just doing a deal at the moment, which is our first deal with equity investors. And the reason for doing that was simply, this is a good business. It is quite profitable, and the people who are selling it wanted quite a lot of money up front, more than we could raise, either from our own resources or from the bank. So equity investors was where we had to go. And it's been an interesting exercise. Again, we've learned a lot by doing it. So we're just waiting to see now whether we can complete the deal. And then that'll be the start of another journey working with equity partners.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. And I look forward to hearing all the great news you're going to get from there. I know you speak all over the world. I've seen you speak on stage a few times. If you were put back on the world stage and you had a few minutes to tell the world something so that the world will remember Philip for, what would that message be?
What would that message be? For me, I think the message is that small businesses can change the world. Small business is what, in free market economies, small business is what our economies are built on. And also, businesses that make things are really important, because that's the only real value creation in the economy. I mean, services businesses don't create anything real. So taking taking something that is a raw material and making it into a finished product is an act of creation. It's an act of value creation as well as anything else. And having businesses that do that is so important in any economy. So my message would be that we need to look after these businesses, the small businesses in general, but particularly businesses which make physical things. And in a way, the more advanced our economy is, the more important they are. And the more important it is not to just give it all away to the bargain basements of the world. And we need to nurture these businesses. We need to support them, and we need to value them, because they add a huge amount to the place we live in. So I think that would be my message, is get behind small business and get behind manufacturers, because it's this unintended consequences thing again. If they disappear, then lots of unpleasant things will happen that could have been avoided. If we'd only appreciated what these things add and what they're worth.
Right. Cool. That's very, very important. It is the lifeblood of a lot of communities, and it provides lots of jobs as well. So yeah, small businesses is something that's very, very important. I know you're a very busy person, and our time has gone very, very fast here. But before I let you go, I got a few quick questions. Rapid fire, just give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Yep. Okay.
You're stranded on a desert island, and you get to eat one food for the rest of your life with no consequence. What would that be?
It would be some kind of pastry. Yeah, actually, yeah. Well, the reality is you get bored, but yeah, pain au raisin.
But you say pastries. When I was in Europe, as a tourist, you go into a bakery and you go, oh look, there's a croissant. I'm gonna have a croissant, and they're like, those are all the stuff that you shouldn't get. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you did say no consequences, so.
Well, yeah, exactly. Hollywood calls and go, hey, we want to do a biopic on you. Who would you cast to play you?
Oh, Tom Hanks.
Awesome. Tom Hanks shows up at your door and goes, hey, guess what? I got casted to play you. Let's get to know each other. Let's hang out. And he goes, but wait, I'm really hungry. So what is that special dish that you could prepare for Tom Hanks?
For Tom. Actually, the thing which I've made, which I've enjoyed the most and been most proud of, has been my beef Wellington.
Ah, nice.
The only thing is that I'm not sure whether I can't remember whether Tom eats meat or not, but let's hope. Let's hope he does, and I'll make him a beef Wellington.
If not, it's his loss.
Well, I'll make him a vegetable Wellington.
If you were in the Olympics and you get to win the gold medal, which event would that be?
400 meters. Because I think that's about the toughest event.
Very specific. Nice. If you were, do you have a special talent that not many people know that you could perform if asked to be asked?
I wish. No, I think what I've discovered over the years is that I'm quite good at a lot of things, but I'm not amazing at any one thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I could. I mean, if the talent I most wish that I had is to be able to sing properly and play guitar properly, and I'd be a rock star.
We'll see if you'll be able to do that someday. You just have to start, right?
I tried it didn't work.
And my last thing is, first of all, give me a number from 1 to 5.
3.
1, 2, 3. So how is success similar to golf?
I hate golf. Well, actually, no. How success similar to golf? the answer is this, that it's about practice and hard work.
Mhm.
The thing with golf, so I'm told, is you've got to be consistent. And it's not about there's no point in being brilliant at putting if you can't drive. And there's no point being brilliant at driving if you can't putt. So you've got to have a good all-round game. You've got to be consistent. You've got to work at it. You've got to practice. And then on top of that, you've got to be able to get yourself out of those situations where you land in a bunker, or you go into the water, or you go into the rough, because however good you are, stuff like that's going to happen. So you've got to be able to deal with those difficult situations without falling to pieces, and try not to get the yips.
Nicely done. So that's how success is like golf. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, get to know more about what you do, see how you can help them out and whatnot, what's the best way to reach out?
Good place to find me is on LinkedIn. That's the sort of the core of my branding, whatever you want to call it, positioning. You'll find me on LinkedIn, or the website, which is alliedglobalengineering.co.uk.
Okay. And then also any last words that you want to share?
This has been fun. It's been great to talk to you. You've asked some brilliant questions. You've really sort of brought me out. So now the last thing I'd like to say is thank you very much for that. You've been a great interviewer, and I've had fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. I've learned a lot from you, and also I love hearing your stories, because those really allow me to think about what I'm doing and how I can apply those lessons learned from you. So thank you very much. And for everybody else, make sure you connect with Philip here. And also, until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. Well, I'll see you later.